Hi there. I've created this series on the coronavirus that I'm going to continue with since it is an ongoing situation that is taking us through a big global shift, and there's so much to be discussed about this, so much reflection that we need to do about the coronavirus situation. But I just want to interject with this series to talk to you about something different. Today I'm talking about defining your character and strength of character. I think a lot of people are entitled to their light, meaning they feel entitled to receive and experience goodness in their life or positivity in their life because they are people of goodwill. Goodwill is a very broad, very general essence. It doesn't become a sharp or a bright light and love without your conscious deliberation, thoughts, and act, without your conscious will. What defines love is more than just a general feeling, because we can actually get these feelings of what we're calling love mixed up with dependency or other mental dysfunctions. What makes love love is that it is a choice. So to make something a choice, it has to be conscious. You have to deeply reflect on it and orient yourself within your life, within your experience, within the people and other life forms around you to determine how you really feel about something, to determine what your values are, why they are your values, why are they important, and how you're going to live them out. When you take that final step of all of that, that is what turns your lights into love. And it's also what fine-tunes your lights. Without doing conscious work on what your light represents, it's very general. If you just stay within the confines of generally having goodwill for people, that's going to fade your light or just keep it dim, keep it rather opaque. And this opaque light is not a force. It's not a force of nature. It's going to accomplish very little. And so you'll find yourself spinning your wheels throughout your life thinking, why do all these bad things happen to me and to the ones around me who I care for, to the world at large? And you're going to be constantly feeling like a victim. It is because you haven't taken charge of yourself in your life. You have to determine your values, why they're important, and how to execute them, how to live them out. You have to take action on it in order to affect change in your reality. Otherwise, you're completely submissive to the will of others. You become their slave. You become their victim. You lose definition to yourself. You lose your sovereignty. There is no sense of self. So how can you live out yourself? How can you expect to live a life for you? If you haven't noticed yet, our planet is in crisis. It has been for thousands of years. We've continuously turned our back on it, pretended it's not there, because to face it means that we have to make some hard decisions. We have to face an ugly reality, face the fact that there's no easy solutions, and face the fact that we are contributing to this and participating in it. And then we have to make difficult decisions of how to behave differently, how to not only stop contributing to it, but end it. If you're not working towards a solution, you are part of the issue. You are part of the problem. Being complacent in something that you know is evil has the same function as actively participating in it. You know our planet's in crisis. You know that your life isn't fulfilled, but it's not just you. It's every single soul on this earth that is in a state of crisis. Something needs to change. Stop waiting for somebody else to change it, because that's not how change works. If you want a better world, you must do something for it. Beyond prayers, beyond wishes, beyond visualization, you must take action, but not just any action. Don't just act because of a feeling of desperation to do something, pause, connect to yourself, reflect on what you're seeing and experiencing and how that makes you feel. Why does it make you feel that way? What's good or bad about it? Why are those things good or bad? What is a better way? Or what is something good that you want to invest yourself in? And what's the best way for you to expand on those values you've just identified, to invest in them? That is the deliberate action that you take. We look at the issues of the planet, we see it big picture, and our automatic immediate thoughts, our default thought is, it's so big, what can I do? There's nothing I can do, or maybe you're just waiting for someone to tell you what you can do. Either way, that first thought is, I have no idea what I could possibly do. So that's the issue with waiting for somebody else to determine these things for you. Stop waiting for anyone to tell you what to do. Determine that for yourself and invest your belief in that is enough. But that's what you're here for. You have to stand up on your own 2 feet and live out what you know is right. You have to take positive action to bring positive changes to your world. But another mistake that we make when we're trying to change the world is we start big. We look at the whole world, the big picture, and we go for that. So a lot of people are fixated on getting their message to the whole world, making a global impact, feeling like they need to be well known or even known at all in order to make an impact. Do you know the impact that you can make with random acts of kindness to strangers, to the people who are in your life? So the mistake is looking at the whole world rather than pulling yourself back to the very reality you're in, your day-to-day life, the people and beings around you, in your community, whatever kind of community that is. And there's different communities set within larger communities, such as maybe you have a support group. That would be a community within your town. Your town is another community. So there's different parts of communities and certainly different levels. But you can't have a large community, a wide scale, a broad or global movement, if you will, or community, without first having that very personal, intimate, face-to-face community right where you are. So ask yourself, who do you want to be? Because character is forged only by choice and by facing the whole reality in all of its harshness and also in all of its upliftment, the dark and the light, and making decisions about who you want to be and how you want to bring that to the world. There's a lot of people claiming that and even fully believing themselves that they are good people, but general will to not cause harm is something that can be easily manipulated to contribute to the enslavement of our species. If all you have is a general goodwill or a general intention to cause no harm, then you are submissive. You are submissive to enslavement. You are contributing to it. And even though you don't intend to, you have to face what's real and then make your life match your intentions. Intention itself, I'm sorry, my friends, but it's not good enough. And it doesn't give you your character. It doesn't define your character, and it doesn't give you strength of character. Strength of character is when you are secure in yourself, in your identity, in your values, and knowing how to execute those values, and you cannot be influenced from outside forces. You cannot be placated out of your values. You cannot be distracted from your values or convinced of something else that isn't true to you. You cannot be deceived into a false path. Now, isn't that an issue that we've all been continuously deceived and diverted to false paths, one after the other after the other? We're given these stories of false hope, and we will continue to be diverted into these fantasies, into a whole fantasy scape, a whole fantasy mind where we are dissociated, where we're under a spell until we define our character, sharpen it for ourselves, not let anyone tell us who and what we should be. There's false morality, which is where you do something or you say you're aligned with something because you've been told that it's good. Have you stopped to think about if it really is good, and if so, or if not, why? That's necessary to actually have a moral compass. So we use these structures, these societal rules and spiritual rules as an external compass, and we try to substitute it for our own, the one that's inside you. And maybe sometimes our motivation for that is because you want to do good in the world, but that's an easy out and it's not the real solution. So we substitute an external compass for our own simply because it's easier. There's no effort required in that. There's less time, and you don't have to face the possibility of making a mistake because these set of rules have already been defined as good. No matter what, they're good. And so that absolves you of self-responsibility, of the possibility of making a mistake. With true morality, it will grow and it will evolve over your lifetime. Therefore, you can always do the best, actively do the best that you can. Not make excuses to say that you're doing the best you can, but deliberate on who and what you are and how you want to bring that to the world, and do the best you can within that. But then as you grow, you'll reach these pivot points where you get to reflect on, is there a better way? Is there something more that you want to add to yourself? And then you take that pivot point to redirect yourself to your new expanded self. So this is growth. Sometimes it might feel like making mistakes, and it's okay to frame it like that and accept that we all make mistakes. But also another way to frame it is simply growth, changing, evolution. So you don't need to compare yourself with where you are now or where you might be in the future with where you have been in the past, when you were deliberately making conscious choice and effort to your goodness, to your character, to how you live with the world. It's when we have no free will in all of this, when we're not exerting our free will, that we make mistakes, truly. That I would define as making a mistake, because yourself wasn't involved in any of that, except that you were complacent, submissive. And the choice to be complacent and submissive is a mistake, because that does not involve your growth. That absolves you of your own consciousness. If you're actively working on your own consciousness and how you use it to positively impact the world, then anything within that realm is going to be growth, not mistakes. And we all make mistakes, like I said. We have all been, at some point in our lives, or maybe for our whole life up to this point, been complacent and submissive to the slavery. That's a mistake that we've all made, and part of growth is taking responsibility for that, acknowledging it for what it is, and noticing that you actually do have free will to choose something else. Responsibility is knowing your deservingness of your free will and then utilizing that free will. You can't utilize free will unless you know that you deserve it. But a step towards knowing your deservingness from the inside out, it's one thing to think it, it's one thing to feel it and to know it for yourself. A step moving towards that is to recognize that anything else isn't working. It's dysfunctional. Everything that absolves you of your free will does not function. There is no sense to it. There is no higher purpose to it. This is not a feat of spiritual light. So we do have to work on our sense of value and self-worth to know our deservingness of something, including free will. But just seeing that accepting anything else doesn't work, that's going to help you. But also determining your values, sharpening, defining your character, that is going to give you that innate sense of self-worth, that value. Of course, you can't have a sense of self-worth or value if you don't even know who and what you are. And growing and creating your character, it kind of happens in like growth spurts. So you'll have a pivot point where you realize that you've been swept up in this wave, and you're just being carried along in this wave, and you don't actually know what you're doing in this wave, what your purpose is, if you agree with it, if this is right, what the purpose is to all of it. And so when you feel yourself just kind of drifting away, and you feel kind of lost or aimless, or you might feel frustrated or like you're spinning your wheels, that's your cue that this is a pivot moment for your growth. So that's when you pause, you take a step back from everything, from this wave that you've been swept up in. You separate yourself out, you clear out everything else, and you take this time to deeply connect to and reflect to yourself, to go searching for more of who you are, to strengthen that character. And then once you've identified that, and you've identified the values and how you will execute these values, then you'll go through a phase where you're practicing that. You're putting it into motion. And you need a time where you're practicing, just this or this along with everything else you've built up to this point, so that you can get to know it better and you can really master it. So you're not continuously hunting for yourself. You're not continuously growing, so to speak, although all of this is a process of growth, so therefore you are. But that's just to say that you're not having to constantly be hunting for yourself. It's important to have these periods of stability in yourself rather than perpetually chasing something. And so I want you to take this moment or lots of moments in your day, this day, to reflect on what's going on around you in your personal life, in the world at large. How does it make you feel? Good and bad emotions. Why does it make you feel that way? And what's a better way? Or what's the positivity that you want to invest yourself in? And how can you do so? And now make a solid action plan. It can be small steps. That's okay. As long as it's aligned with your values, it is empowered by light, and it becomes a force of change. The smallest acts, as long as they have that strong backing of soul and of free will, can have the biggest impact. Oh boy, am I getting chills when I say that. A lot of empathic intuitives might recognize this sense of psychic chills. So that happens whenever your body recognizes truth. That happens when you're connecting to the frequency of truth. So I'll say it once again. The smallest actions, as long as they are backed by soul and free will, by a consciousness, by someone who has determined their character for themselves and gotten to know why they are who they are, that is going to have more power than anything else, than any kind of broad or glamorized action. So on this day, after you've taken a few minutes to determine more of who you are and why, Make then action plan. What can you do today? And what can you continue to do tomorrow, the next day, the next day? Don't make it rigid necessarily, but you'll recognize there's a theme of behavior that you want to carry out. And the only thing that's stopping you is you. So it's easy to remove that blockage because you're in control of it. Forgive yourself for what mistakes you may have done in the past. And do you know something that helps you to forgive yourself by deciding to be your true self in this moment? Because you can't move forward with forgiveness if you're not simply moving forward with your own life. So let us know in the comments below after you have taken time to determine your values, why they're your values, and how you can act on them. Take that action and let us know what you've done and let us know how it made you feel. So thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next video. Namaste.